You're listening to the Water Prairie Chronicles, a podcast that supports parents of children with disabilities by sharing the stories of individuals who have grown up with disabilities and the organizations available to help parents along the way.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to have your eyes dancing all the time? In today's episode, Frankie Caputo, the creator of the Dancing Eyes podcast, shares his story of growing up with congenital nystagmus and how it led him to create the podcast and meet people from all around the world who live with nystagmus. And now, here's Tonya's interview with Frankie.
Our guest today is Frankie Caputo, and I've contacted Frankie because he has a special story that I want him to share with you, and we have some similarities in what we're doing. But before we get into that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name's Frankie Caputo. I'm 21, and I was born with congenital nystagmus. So you know what nystagmus is. I'm sure a lot of listeners know what it is, but if you don't, it's you have little control over your eyes, so they can move around, and they can either go left to right or up to down. Mine go left to right. So yeah, I struggled a lot as a child with that, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. And I've always wanted I always was looking online for someone who I could relate to and someone who I could talk to about it. And there really wasn't much. And if, you go on the nystagmus communities or nystagmus, somebody emailed me and said, why do you keep calling it nystagmus? Isn't it like, why do you say it like that? So anyway, I would always look for kids my age. So like teenagers or people entering college, and there wasn't many of them. Most of the communities were parents, and they were confused and they were worried and they didn't know how to approach the condition. So I figured I wanted to see a podcast, so I made a podcast about it. And I've never met anybody with it before. So that through the podcast, that's the only way I've ever met somebody with nystagmus before. So cool. There's a little bit about me.
Cool, I appreciate that. So you started talking about nystagmus. Let's go ahead and dig into that a little bit. So you talked about the uncontrollable movement of the eyes. Does it, for you personally, does it come with any other vision issues?
Yeah, well, so I have below average vision. I'm definitely visually impaired. I think my corrected vision is 20/50 in the right eye and 20/70 in the left eye, which isn't too bad because I've seen a lot worse than that, but I've also seen better than that, which I might want to talk about later. But yeah, so my vision's not so good.
So did you wear glasses when you were younger?
Oh, all the way since maybe I was like 2. I was super young.
Are you wearing contacts now then?
I had LASIK.
Okay. So I was like, because I don't see any glasses on your eyes right now. So.
Yeah, nothing right now. But I did wear I wore glasses up until I was about to turn 20. So I got LASIK probably around 10 months ago. Okay.
So with the LASIK, so your vision is still the 20/50, 20/70 with the LASIK too?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay.
I'm under the impression, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like my vision was slightly better with the glasses, or even slightly better immediately following the procedure. And I feel as if my vision has gone down a little bit, not dramatically, but I feel like it's gone down a little bit. So I might move that number up to 20/60 to 20/80 range, but I haven't gotten it tested yet. So we'll see.
Are you open to wearing glasses with the correction if that would help?
It depends what the difference is. So if wearing the glasses is the difference between me driving and me not driving, yeah, I'll wear the glasses. But I live my everyday life pretty comfortably without the glasses.
Right. I went a time where I was wearing contacts, and it was nice. It's very liberating to not have to worry about the glasses. But for me, just because of some other issues going on, the contacts became too hard to wear, and I had to go back to the glasses again. But I don't like having the dust on my glasses all the time and having to try to.
That's annoying.
And even just the light coming in different ways can affect this, because I'm very photophobic, so trying to keep from getting the bright light out of my eyes and all, the glasses seem to make it even worse. So I can understand not wanting to go back if you don't have to.
Yeah, I never really had an issue with wearing glasses, but I feel like aesthetically, I mean, this is just like, I would rather not wear glasses, And I tried contacts when I was younger, and they would give me the hard lenses. They would give me glass permeable lenses. These are
Yeah.
these small little hard lenses. So most contacts can bend and fold in any which direction, and these are glass. You can't bend these, or else you're going to snap them. And they were very uncomfortable for me. So I wore them a few times, and I opted out of it. And fun little story: I even went to sleepaway camp when I was 12, and I brought the contacts with me, and I also brought the glasses with me. And my intention was to wear the contacts every day, and I ended up never wearing the contacts. And I also opted out of wearing the glasses too.
Oh,
So I
really?
was so I didn't wear contacts or glasses, and I was probably walking around for 2.5 weeks at the sleepaway camp with 2200 vision. And
Right.
just yeah, so I figured it out. Yeah, I figured it out.
Have they ever told you why you have nystagmus?
No,
Have your parents told you anything about like when they first noticed it?
I don't think that I've asked. I know I know that as long as my mom knew about it, she was always trying to help, and she was always trying to find a solution or ways to help me out. But I don't recall. I She probably did tell me. I probably don't remember, but I'm sure I don't remember her telling me when she first noticed it. No,
How old were you when you got your first glasses?
probably two.
Okay, so it was early then
Oh
for
yeah,
for her to have had.
I was definitely the first kid in my classes with glasses. Say that
Right.
5 times. Not easy.
We found that there's a lot of parents who don't ask any questions about vision for their children because they just assume that their infant, their toddler are fine. But there's a lot of eye issues that can be corrected early if they catch it early. And the magic number that the doctors told us when our kids were young was between 3 and 5. If they can find what the issue is, especially if it's a muscle issue with the eye, where you'll see kids having like a patching program where they're trying to strengthen one eye and the other eye's
Yeah.
weaker. If they can catch that when by the time they're age 3, they can usually strengthen that other eye so that both eyes develop the same. With nystagmus, that's not going to make a difference with that. I don't believe. But what is it? What is it when one eye turns? Is that strabismus? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
So those things. So kudos to your mom for catching it and getting you to a doctor early instead of waiting until you were in
Oh, she's
school.
great. Yeah.
So moms always need a cheer. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're doing great too, I'm sure. I
I
mean,
appreciate that.
based off of previous episodes that I've listened to, it seems like you're on the same boat as my mom.
Well,
So,
it's one of those things, and a lot of our listeners are going to be those moms and dads that they're worried about their kids, and they're tuning in here because they want to find some answers, and they want to.
well, if you're a parent and you're listening to this podcast, you're doing a good job already.
Here you go.
So,
We will give all the moms and dads a pat on the back right now.
there you go. Yeah.
I'm always willing to cheer on the next person with that, and so yeah. So this is interesting. So you were the first one to wear glasses when you were like kindergarten into elementary school. Did you have any trouble with the other kids making fun of you or anything like that for wearing the glasses?
No, not that I recall. That was too soon for kids to start bullying. They don't really, when you're in kindergarten, I don't think they really care. They just want to have fun. That didn't happen until probably late middle school, early high school,
So there
around
was
then.
some of it later.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Do
A
you
lot
mind
of it.
sharing any of that?
Oh yeah, I'll talk about all that stuff. All that fun, all that juicy stuff. So you don't even like when you have a condition like this, if nobody tells you that there's something wrong with your eyes, you might not even know it. So for me, I didn't really know. I knew that there was something wrong with them, and I knew that I had a condition called nystagmus, but I never knew how I looked, right? Because if you look in the mirror with nystagmus, you look just like anybody else. There's not really like aesthetically, you look the same. But then I would see myself in photos, and then I would see myself with a head tilt because I had a really bad null point, which I still have one, but it's not as bad. So I would see myself in photos, and then I would be like, "Why am I looking over there? Why is my head like that?" Or I'd be taking school photos, and they would say, "Look at the camera,"
Oh,
and I'm always like, "I'm staring at it, man.
yeah.
How much closer?" I would get yelled at. I've gotten yelled at by like a couple people. Like they would say it 3 or 4 times. Look at the camera, and as like a 10-year-old, I don't really know how to respond to that. Like,
It's like
I'm
I
not going to
am.
change. Yeah, I'm not going to change how I'm looking. I'm going to do that the same. But yeah, bullying. Back to that. Elementary school wasn't so bad. Middle school wasn't so bad. It really didn't happen until high school,
Wow.
freshman, sophomore year, and it doesn't take a lot for you to be hurt. It doesn't take a lot. You could have a positive interaction with 99% of everybody around you, but all it takes is that 1% to really get you thinking at night and really like get you self-conscious about yourself. And I think that was the case with me. I think I had a generally positive experience with most people around me, and there was just a few handful of people that were brutal. Like it was all they would talk about. And especially, it was also even one of those things where if it was just me and them, they wouldn't be so bad. But if there were people around them, like people that they could make laugh, oh, they would like no holds barred for sure, like really bad stuff. For example, um, I would be walking up to a group of friends, and then one of them would be like, "Hey, Frankie, what's up, man?" Like just
Oh,
look completely across from me. I'm like, "Why?" And everybody would laugh, and then I would be confused. I would say, "Why is that funny?" Because I don't understand. Like, is that how I look? Do I look like I'm facing the complete opposite direction? I was like, I didn't know it was that bad. I knew that they shook, but I didn't know that I'm not looking at you. So that led me. Um, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was extremely self conscious, and um, made that gave me trust issues because
mm,
I would be fine with somebody if we're in the same room, but then I find out that they're talking, like they're making fun about me behind my back. So trust issues, and then it makes forming relationships a bit more difficult because of the trust issues.
right.
And like women, that wasn't so easy just because you know y- you're talking to people, and all these people are talking about how weird you look, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm not attractive. I'm not even going to attempt with that, because why would anybody be attracted to somebody who looks like they're looking 90 degrees from where you are? So um, high school wasn't so easy. I dealt with a lot of that stuff. I'd say that the bullying slowed down though for my junior year. It wasn't. I started to kind of figure out who was my friend, like who my
Yeah.
friends were and who weren't my friends, and I just stayed away from the people who weren't my friends. And funny enough, the main guy, the main bully, so there was like one guy, and then there was a group of his friends. The one guy reached out to me a few months ago, and he apologized.
Wow.
Yeah, and we oddly enough, I was almost expecting the apology from him. I had figured that if anybody was going to apologize to me, it was this guy. I don't know why, but I just had that feeling. And I hadn't spoken to him in years. And then I got a message from him, and I was like, I bet this is the apology. Like, I bet
That's
this is it.
great.
Yeah. And that was it. So he was making fun of me at probably like 15, 16. So we're 21 now. So a handful of years later, and he apologized. And that's just something that's gonna happen when you're in high school and middle school. Like you're gonna get bullied, whether it's a nystagmus or like you're short or there's something else. Like people
Yeah.
are always gonna find something. So I think it adds character.
Wait, I
You
was I
know.
was going to say that. I mean, you were fortunate that it was not until high school, because usually it starts middle school when kids are starting to be aware of differences, that
Mhm.
and they're kind of venturing out on their own beyond just their parents' guidance. And then you get into that insecure stage of life where nobody really feels confident, and so some of them unfortunately choose to use the bullying side of it as their way to kind of pull themselves away so that they can feel better, because if they can make you feel bad, then they're going to look better. So
100%. And yes, me not dealing with that in middle school is like me getting the bullying in high school is definitely later than a lot of the people that I've spoken to. And a large reason for that is because middle school starts in sixth grade. So I was I was homeschooled. I did virtual school in eighth grade. So that whole year, that's one whole year that I can't even get bullied from people
Right.
just because I'm not even seeing them. And another thing is I went to a K through 12 school. So when I was in sixth grade, I had known these people for 6 years already. Like these aren't new
Right.
people. These are people who know like what I'm about already. They already know about my eye condition. There's nothing new to these guys. So they already know who I am. It's like there's no reason for all that. And in seventh grade, I switched schools halfway through the year, so I was only at my new school for about 5 months. So there really wasn't. I didn't even know anybody. I didn't.
Okay.
I was in a new school. I didn't really talk to too many people. I had a small group of friends who I spoke to, and I got along with them. And other than that, I didn't talk to anybody. So I really didn't deal with so much bullying until freshman year. That's when it happened.
So I'm just curious, because similar to my son and my daughter in part way, for 1 year, he was at an online school as well. What caused that decision to be made?
I didn't like school. It was pretty
Okay.
simple. It
Fair
wasn't.
enough.
It's not like I was getting bullied so bad and then I wanted to leave. It was really just I didn't like school and I would rather do it online. And
So it was your choice to make the change then.
it was my choice.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I convinced my mom. So yeah, and my sister did it too. My sister actually kind of started it. I was gonna go back to regular school, and my sister wanted to do online school, and then she kind of convinced me to do it. So that's how that went down. There's pros and cons to being bullied. I'm
Yeah.
not a proponent. I'm not encouraging bullying, but I'm
Thank
also
you.
not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to encourage bullying, but I will say that me being bullied formed me into who I am today. And if I
Yeah.
had the choice to remove the bullying from my life, I wouldn't remove it. I would keep it in there.
Well,
Don't bully people.
yeah, I would
That's
say
not what I'm saying.
because you've come through that, it's affected who you are today.
Yeah.
And you probably have some skills and strengths that you built because of the unfortunate situation they had to go through it. But it sounds as if you come out stronger than you went into it, which was a good thing.
I'd say so. I'd say so.
But and
Did
I'm
that help your son? I'm curious.
Yeah.
I guess I'll listen to his
Yeah,
episodes.
you
I'm
have to listen to
curious.
his now.
Okay, yeah,
If I tell
I'll
you that
listen to it.
answer, then you won't listen to his.
Fair enough.
Of course, by the time this airs, his will have already played. So
That'll be out, but I'm not
so
going to
go
have you listeners
go back to
re-listen the same
episodes 4 and
stories.
5, and you can hear the story.
Well,
Timing on interviews.
as a parent, how do you feel when your son comes home from class and he's telling you that his teachers are making fun of him?
Well, he will tell you that that I was at fault because I would support the teachers. That I was a teacher. I'm my background. I have a bachelor of science in education, but I never had my own classroom. I did long term subbing. We moved around in different times. Then the kids were born, and I wanted to be home to be able to help support them. And then we found that they both had different needs where they needed extra support. So I became more their tutor during that time, and I would do like volunteer enrichment classes in the schools and all. But so I have the educational background, the training, and I've been in the schools involved a lot. But I always felt like, I always felt that the teachers were trained, they should know what they're doing. They're there to encourage they're there to teach the kids. Okay, so yes, I was wearing rose-colored glasses, but in all honesty, I felt like they really there must have been something that could have been done differently. And it wasn't until seventh grade that Christopher and I sat down and he said, I need you to back me up. I need you to, no matter what happens, I need to know that you're on my side. And it was tough, but I agreed with him that, from this point forward, I will defend you as long as what you're doing is not in the wrong.
So do you
And
confront the teachers?
so we did, and the administration, and many different paths we took on this. And actually, in his interview, we don't go deep on this. He wanted to keep it so that it wasn't too too harsh on the schools, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But he was totally misunderstood, and part of it is he has invisible disabilities. So you're going to look at him and you're not going to understand that there's a lot going on that you can't see. And so those misunderstandings are what were happening. So
Yeah.
so where were we on that? We got a little bit off target there.
Sorry about that.
No, this is why I actually like doing the podcast, because I'm a talker, in case you haven't noticed. And so
well, it's nice to be on someone else's podcast.
Yeah.
So I've never been on somebody else's podcast. It's always they're coming on my podcast. So
Right.
This is new for me.
Thinking about elementary school, did you have any accommodations in school?
Okay, here's something. So I went to a private school for the first years of my life. So when I was in the K through 12 school before I switched, I was in a private school, and there would just be whiteboards, and I couldn't see the whiteboards. And you can't zoom in on a whiteboard because it's a whiteboard.
Right.
It's not an iPad. So my mom spoke to the school, and they literally, I think, like, my mom tells me I'm the reason that they did this. And they took projectors, and then they would put projectors where the whiteboards were. And then the teacher would, have the computer on the side of the room, and then the computer would be connected to the projector. And then instead of using the whiteboard, they would use the projector. And so that was my accommodation. And I guess the school really liked it, and they just moved it into all the classes. So because of that, they put that thing into all the classes, and the teachers liked it. Everybody liked it. So
that accommodation was there. So being at a private school, did you have a 504 plan or an IEP or anything?
probably, I don't recall really getting too many accommodations. I kind of went through. My teachers knew that I had a condition. They might not have understood it, but I know, like, before every school year started, my parents would have a conversation with them and just tell them the deal.
Right.
So they were all aware, and they would always ask me, at least the better ones, they would ask me if I needed help with anything. And the answer was usually no. I never needed any more time on a test. It was offered to me, but I never needed that. Yeah, honestly, that's one of the things I can't relate to a lot of my guests about, are the accommodations, because I don't think that I ever really needed them. I did sit at the front of a classroom, in every classroom up until high school. I sat in the front, and that helped significantly.
I was thinking, with 20/70 vision, you'd have to, because you wouldn't be able to see from the back of the room.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely always sat in the front, and I think oftentimes I didn't even see what was happening. I just kind of would stay and take notes. And I know for a fact in high school, probably 99% of the time, I didn't know what was happening. But as far as accommodations go, there really wasn't much there. I had the same textbooks as everybody else.
I was going to ask if you use large print.
No, sometimes I had a worksheet that was just way too small, and I asked them to enlarge it, and there would never be an issue there.
Okay. Oh yeah, like those when they take a sheet and put two side by side on one piece of paper, when they're like microscopic print on those.
Yeah, like, why are they so small?
Yeah.
Even sighted people shouldn't be seeing that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, much less to write the answers on them, because the space is so small.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that wasn't so often. Yeah, not too many accommodations.
So looking back on it, do you think you would have benefited had you had either a large print option or anything else, or do you think you had what you needed?
I was a straight A student.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know how much more, but that had a lot to do with the parenting. That's for a different kind of podcast. But yeah, straight A's. So I didn't really have to deal with. Yeah, I don't know. The accommodations weren't so much. So.
Did you have to spend more time doing your work than your peers did?
No.
So you were able to keep up with the reading speed?
Yeah. Well, if my perspective, I didn't know that I had really, like, a severe eye condition, and I don't know if it's severe, but I didn't really know that it was something that would be in the way of anything until I met other people in the community. and I was a little startled at first to find out that it had affected some of these people so much. Because to me, it's like, well, if I can't see the book, if I can't see the words, I'll just put it closer
Right.
to my face. And if my eyes started shaking, I'll look out of my null point. And that's all things that happened subconsciously for me. Like, I don't pick my null point. I don't pick how close I put the book to my face. That's just something that happens. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say that I was slower than anybody.
So I don't remember now at the beginning if we said anything about this or not, but for those that are listening that don't understand nystagmus, the null point is the point where it either slows down or completely stops the movement of the eyes. And
Yep.
and typically you did say that it's, I think, off to the side, as I think you had said earlier.
Up and to the left.
Up and to the left,
Like
okay.
this. Yeah. It
So
was more dramatic, and I had a no point corrective surgery when I was 13. So that helped a little
okay,
bit.
okay. So did you ever find a way to feel the nystagmus itself?
I feel them moving all the time. I've felt them moving throughout this episode.
So you
They
are aware of it.
certainly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel them moving. It's not that I feel them moving, it's that I see it's my world is shaking side to side. And that's something that I don't hear. For whatever reason, I look at videos online and they'll explain what nystagmus is like. And they'll say, well, if you have nystagmus, you might, if you don't have nystagmus, you might think that by having it, your world would be moving side to side. And the videos would go on to say that it's actually not the case. And you get used to it and your world's not actually moving side to side. But with my experience, I can definitely experience my world moving side to side.
So yeah,
It's
and
not all the time, but it happens.
so yeah, so you had the surgery. So did they adjust the muscle? What did they do for the surgery?
I don't know exactly. When I was that age, I didn't even really know so much as to what my condition was. I knew that my eyes shook, and whenever my parents would always tell me, like if somebody asked, just to say that I had a loose eye muscle. So I didn't even know what the name of the condition was at that point.
Right.
If I were to take a guess, they just tightened some things back there. I don't know. I'm squirmish. I can't look at videos of surgeries and
Oh,
stuff
okay.
like that. So yeah.
I always wondered what they did. I know there is a procedure that can be done for some, but I always wondered what it was. And there's different reasons for the nystagmus, and so like even though my daughter has it, the reason that the two of you have it is not the same. And so so the with her retinas being so fragile, they wouldn't do anything to anywhere near her eye to protect it. So it's not a conversation we ever had with the doctors, other than to find out that it would not be advised. So,
Okay.
but I have heard of it. So I was just curious. You're the first one that I've met that actually has had the procedure.
Yeah, and there's a few different kinds of procedures. That's definitely not the only one. That's just I don't even know the name of the procedure. I just know that I had some type of procedure done on my eyes
Right.
when I was 13.
So you've
So
had that. You've had the LASIK. So you've had a few things done to your eyes.
yeah,
So
yeah, and I've
for
definitely.
someone who is squeamish about about surgeries.
Yeah, well, the first time around, they put me to sleep, and I got to. It was in New York, so I got to stay in New York for a week, which is kind of nice. My mom would bring me matzo ball soup
Oh, there
and
you go.
corned beef sandwiches. That was actually a pretty good time. Other than the pain wasn't so fun.
Yeah.
But the LASIK, they sedated me, and the LASIK wasn't fun. That wasn't fun. That was much worse than the first procedure. The LASIK didn't hurt, but it was very uncomfortable.
Well, you're
And
awake during that, so
I was awake, yeah. And my eyes were red for weeks. Like, but they were severely bruised for weeks. And I have some photos of that too. And they're pretty funky looking.
was
And
there
I would
any
have,
concern about the nystagmus for that surgery?
oh yeah, I've gotten turned down for LASIK before because of the nystagmus. I was put on to this doctor, I think, from a woman in the Nystagmus Facebook group who had had the procedure done by this guy. I don't remember his name right now. I can give it to you after the episode.
Okay.
And it's an office in Athens, Georgia, which you're not so far from there.
Yeah.
So I was living in Florida at the time, but my family was living in Georgia. So I flew up here, and I didn't know if we were going to be able to go through with the procedure until right when they were doing it. We had, I had set out 10 days to come up here and see what was going to happen. So we had the pre-op, and he checked me and he said, "Well, we've done it on somebody with nystagmus before. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow." So
Wow.
this was on a Wednesday and the procedure was on a Thursday. So they brought me in and they gave me some pills and they made me feel funny for required a lot though. I'll say it wasn't, it was like 4, but anyway. And he started doing it and I was like, "Are we doing it?" He said, yeah, we're going to do it. So yeah. And when he said that the first eye was done, I didn't even know that it was finished. So he said, "On to the second eye." I didn't even, I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, okay, nice."
Well, because it's my understanding is that even when you're sedated, the eye's still moving.
Yep.
And
Yeah, they were
so,
moving. So they had to, so lots of sedation for sure, with some, I'm sure that helped to an extent. But he also had some type, oh, another thing, when you have LASIK, they hold your eyes open. So they have something that holds your eyes open for
okay.
you. So I don't have to worry about me blinking. That's not a worry or a concern. The one thing that he did for me, which I don't think he did for most other patients, was he had an instrument. He held it on my eye, and he had to like push down on my eye to keep it still.
Oh,
And even with that, they were moving, but he had to push, and he had to apply a lot of pressure too. It wasn't just like that did not feel good, and that I'm sure was the reason why my eyes were so red
that's
for
what I'm
the
thinking
following
with the
weeks.
bruising and all. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely bruised them a lot, but
Wow.
he wouldn't have been able to do the procedure without it. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. So there is a possibility of that. So if it's something that, if a parent has a young child right now and they're kind of looking at, you've got the surgery that helped to decrease some of the nystagmus when you were younger, and then the LASIK as well. So, as time progresses and the medical world learns more, there hopefully will be some other options too, as some of
there's
these
something
kids
that
that are
I'm
young.
reading about. It's called light therapy. I don't want to go too far into detail because I don't have much detail. I don't know much, but I've heard some crazy results. I saw this one story of a guy with congenital nystagmus, and corrected vision was 20/65, and after like a month of this therapy, it went down to 20/25, which
Wow.
is near perfect.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get that doctor on my podcast, and I'm trying to get the patient on my podcast too, because I really want to pick their brains about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd be interested in hearing more about that.
But I also don't want to give off like too much information. I don't want to like recommend anything because I don't know nearly enough about it to give recommendations. And I'm not going to recommend it anything until I actually do it myself, so I can
Right.
see if it actually works.
So,
So
maybe this is a good place for us to remind everyone this is an entertainment only podcast. You use the information however you want, but we're not telling you what to do. So you had made reference earlier to driving. Do you drive now?
I have a driver's license, but I don't drive. So I got the license January 2021. So I was 21. No, I was 20. Sorry. That was a little over a year ago. And I got the license and I drove around for a bit, and I just wasn't so comfortable driving. I would always question myself. I would say, I really think I could see better than this. I don't know if I don't know if what I'm seeing is good enough for me to feel comfortable driving.
Right.
Now, if it was just me on the road, I would be totally fine with it. But because there's other people on the road and there's families and there's people who are living their own lives, I don't want to risk anything just because I can't see them. But I've never been in an accident, and I've probably only driven like 15 times, but I've done highways and stuff.
Do you have any restrictions on your license?
No,
Okay. Other
no,
than glasses or
I don't even think so.
okay,
I
so
don't think
night
they went too
times
deep with that.
so night driving's okay.
Technically, yes, but I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Do they
Yeah.
know that nighttime's an issue?
I don't, they didn't like really ask me
That's
questions
what I'm
like
thinking. They don't
this.
ask that, do they?
No, no. The person who was giving me my test didn't ask if there was anything wrong with my eyes. They weren't in the car with me. They were standing on the outside while I was in the car. I don't know if that's normal or if that's just because it was during the pandemic.
That's interesting.
So
Yeah.
I thought that they would be in the car with me, but they weren't. They were standing on the outside, and we were on a phone call, and they were telling me what to do. And
Seriously?
yeah, I was like, this shouldn't be this easy. This is
Yeah.
too easy.
But wait a minute. So you're on a phone call. Don't they say that you shouldn't be talking on the phone when you're driving?
Unless I'm taking a test, I guess.
But you can take a test while it seems like there's a disconnect here.
There's a lot of disconnects in society.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. My inability to drive has restricted me in a few aspects of my life, which definitely brings some frustration. I I have to ask, my family for rides places. When I lived on my own, I would have to Uber, and Ubers are expensive. I know cars are expensive, but trust me, Ubers are expensive. And
Yeah.
another thing is I would have my friends drive me because let's say like when I was living in a different state, my friends would drive me places and I couldn't go places unless they were ready. The lack of independence is still something that I struggle with today. And I'm hoping I can get myself a Tesla by the time
There
I'm
you
like
go.
24. I'm trying to get that Tesla. So that's the biggest goal of mine is the Tesla. So I'm working towards that, and
We
I'll
we
have that thing drive me.
we've had similar conversations here that is the wave of the future, definitely,
Yep.
when there's any
Yep.
type of impairment, because the problem is, could you take over if the systems needed you to?
And I could,
And
my vision's certainly good enough. I'm comfortable that I could do that. But if that thing's going to drive me 90% of the time, I'm totally cool with it.
yeah, well, I'm thinking just
Yeah.
parking in a parking lot too. It'd be a whole lot easier.
It does the parking for you. Like it has a new feature where let's say you're at a Walmart and you're walking out of the Walmart, you could take out the keys and press a button and the car will drive to you.
So on a rainy day,
It'll drive without somebody in the car towards you to pick you up in front of the Walmart.
so you've
So
got
how
your
sick is
groceries
that?
there in a stormy afternoon, and you can stay underneath the shelter while the car comes to get you.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to Elon Musk about that one day.
Yeah.
So it'll happen. I don't know when. It'll happen though.
So,
Yeah.
just a couple other questions I had about just what you see and things. Do bright lights bother you any? Does that seem to change any of your vision acuity for you?
Well, I'm not a fan of the sun.
Yeah.
The sun's pretty bright. uh, I don't know. Like if I'm in a dark restaurant, those are a little annoying. So actually, the opposite in a sense.
So dark environment's harder. Okay.
And what I mean by that is if I'm in a dark restaurant and I'm going around talking to people, or I'm talking to the people that I'm eating with, somehow the lack of light makes me notice the shaking of my environment a lot more. So if there's less light and there's only light in certain areas of the room, I see everything going side to side. And
Right.
it's very difficult to maintain a conversation when your eyes are moving side to side, because not only are your eyes moving side to side, so you have to worry about that and the conversation, but then you're aware that the person who you're interacting with is seeing it too. And
Right.
if they don't know you so well, then there's a major elephant in the room and that should be addressed. So yeah,
The
lots of things.
do you think in that situation that that the beat of it is just getting faster because of the low light?
I've tried to grasp exactly what causes it, and it's just come at such random times sometimes that it's hard to figure out. Because you could say, well, maybe they start to go crazy because you're anxious, or maybe they're going crazy
Yeah.
because you're tired, or because you're not looking through your null point, or maybe because you're not being present in the conversation and instead you're in your head, and for some reason that makes your eyes go crazy. But from my experience, I've been fully present in the conversation, very mindful, and I've still had my eyes start to freak out just out of nowhere.
Okay.
No cause that I'm aware of, and it would start doing that, and that in turn will take away my my focus from the conversation,
Yeah,
and then
I
I'll
could
start
see
thinking
that.
about my eyes, and then when you start giving your eyes energy, and then you start giving your shaking eyes energy, and then it's all you're thinking about, and then the conversation's dead at that point.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah.
if it helps any, now of course I'm speaking as a mom, but when I'm talking to my daughter, I don't notice her nystagmus. It's if she says something about it, or if we're in a situation where I know that that she's going to be visually really stressing herself a lot, then I might see it more, and I'll say something to her then, just to see if we need to change the environment that we're in. But in a common conversation, and I'm sure your friends are the same way. You know, once you kind of know what's going on, it's not a big deal. It's just part of who you are.
Yep.
And honestly, most people don't stare you straight in the eye when they talk to you anyway. So they're
Yeah,
not
most
looking
people
at
aren't
your
even good
eyes.
with eye contact, regardless of like not having an
Yeah.
eye condition. And I've heard exactly what you said about your daughter. I've heard that as well with my mom and with my friends. They'll tell me that they don't notice it, and I get it, you know, because you know me and you just, that's part of who I am. You don't really recognize it. But like, let's say I'm at work or I'm talking to somebody, not everybody's going to know that I have an eye condition or what it is. And some
Right.
people will think that I'm high. I've gotten that a lot. I've gotten that a lot. People asking me if I'm high or like, what am I on?
Yeah.
Um, that hasn't happened so much, but I've gotten that for sure. And it definitely adds another element of learning how to interact with people. And because to me, there's certainly an elephant in the room if they start going crazy. I just feel like I have to mention it. Like, oh, by the way, I was born with something. I'm not high right now. I was born with it. It's not because I took too many drugs when I was in college. It's not because of that. It's here's advice. I know that this is mostly for parents, but if anybody's a kid or a teenager, or if you're a parent and you want to give some advice to your kid who's dealing with something like this, you could. It's it can lighten up the mood to joke about it a little bit. So th- there's a recommendation for me is if you're gonna bring up your eyes, you're allowed to joke about it. And if you start joking about things that you're self conscious about, you're not going to be as self conscious about them. You're going to get over them. If you can make fun of yourself, then nobody can make fun of you because you're already doing it. It's not funny if
Yeah.
you're already doing it. Um, yeah, so
But you've
there you
kind of
go.
taken away their thunder if you've done that.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I already made that joke.
Yeah.
I said it before you. It's what comedians do. Comedians were all had pretty terrible childhoods, from what I can tell, and that turned them into comics. And so, yeah, you joke about self-deprecation. I'm not saying do it a lot, but you know, you mix it in here and there, then it will definitely alleviate some self-consciousness.
Well, that actually was my next question I was going to have for you, if you had any tips for parents or for kids on that. So these are perfect timing here. Any
So
other pointers you want to pass on?
for sure, for sure. That's the first one. Another tip. Let me think. I'll start with the people with the condition. Another tip, if you have the condition, is I ask my guests this question all the time, but I don't really think about my own response. All right, so let's say you're in high school and you have nystagmus and you're dealing with bullying, like how I was. A good tip from me is to know that it's because they're insecure with themselves and that their feelings towards your condition is going to change over the next few years. Like, and also your feelings about your condition is going to change over the next few years too. Once you start to learn about yourself and once you start to experience life a little bit, and gain, get to learn about yourself, you actually, people are going to start to realize how cool they are and things that they can offer to the world that have nothing to do with an eye condition that they were born with. And people are going to start to judge you on the things that you've actually accomplished and the person that you are, as opposed to something that you were born with. So there's some hope right there, because my mindset's definitely very different now than it was when I was in high school, and that's just because I've done a lot of self growth over the last few years. And I think this is around the time where a lot of people will do it, around their college years, sometime after high school and early
Yeah.
20s. around there. And for parents, for advice for parents, raise your kids however you want, but I think it's important to not tell them that this is going to stop them from doing things, because realistically, if you have nystagmus, and I know forms of nystagmus vary, they're not always the same. Like you can have a lot, you can have a lot of shaking and your vision will be really bad, or you can have less shaking and your vision won't be so bad.
Right.
But I think generally you can still do a lot of things with nystagmus that people who don't have it can do. Like I played football, I played basketball, and then everybody got taller than me, so I had to stop with that. But I'm very good at table tennis. Like I'm wicked good at ping pong. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm really good at it. Any sport, I could pretty much play it. And I've met other people with nystagmus who do sports as well. I had somebody on my podcast who surfs. So don't let it stop you. Don't let your children think that nystagmus will stop them from playing any sports. I mean, if they want to play a sport, they can play a sport. So yeah, don't make it a bigger deal than it is, really. And be there for them. This is just general advice for anybody, but like if someone wants to talk, let the kid talk about it and vent how they're feeling about the condition and bullies and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't have too much parenting advice because I'm not a parent, but I can kind of take from what my mom did.
I was gonna say, yeah, you have a mom who did some things right, and
yeah.
So speaking from the recipient of what she was doing right, you're able to give some advice that way.
For sure, yeah.
So nice. I think those are some good points that, even if your child doesn't have the same condition, I think those pieces are inspirational enough for every parent to take away and to know that, kids need to be kids. They need to have experiences like their peers have. And like you're saying, height has nothing to do with your eyes. So whether you're going to be able to continue in that.
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I got this one thought and I have to mention it real quick. Don't separate your kids from the other kids either, because I convinced my mom to allow me to do virtual school, and it was cool and all, but you need the other children there to help form who you are. You need to have those interactions. Even if you're getting bullied, and I get it, like bullying sucks, and this isn't for everybody. Like there's no universal advice for everybody, but like I said earlier in the podcast, all of my experiences in school made me who I am, and they made me grow tougher skin. And I think it's important for your kids to know that they're not, in a sense, different than everybody else. I mean, they can do the same things as everybody else and be treated like everybody else. So, yeah.
Nice. So keep them out of a bubble.
Yeah, don't put them in a bubble, please, because you're gonna make you're gonna make their situation a lot worse when they're in their mid-20s and they don't know how to talk to strangers and they don't know how to introduce themselves or have a relationship.
True.
So yeah.
All right. So speaking about being able to talk and having relationships and all, you've started the Dancing Ice podcast in the last year, less than that actually. When did you start it?
I made my first episode in August or late July, and I stopped because I had moved from Florida to Georgia. I stopped for a few months and I started back up with it in November.
So really counting November then, as far as being consistent with it.
It's really, honestly, November was when I first became consistent.
So what made you decide to start it?
When I was a kid, even now, I always wanted there to be something online where I can listen to other people and relate to them and hear their experiences and be like, yeah, I had that same experience, and talk to them and just have a conversation. I think conversations are very important, and you can learn a lot about yourself. Actually, you can learn a lot about yourself from writing too. That's something else, but yeah, conversing helps a lot. And it's just something that I wanted. something I always wished was online, and nothing like it existed. It's a very niche topic, like
It is.
nystagmus. There's not, I've never met anybody with it before. Supposedly it's 1 in 1,000 people who have it, but I don't know who made that statistic. I've never met these people.
Is it
So
as often as that? I haven't looked at the stats on that.
that's what it'll say online, is 1 in 1,000, but
Wow.
I don't know where they are. Maybe I haven't seen them because my vision's so poor. Maybe they were right in front of me.
You aren't wearing a sign out there.
I've always been looking for the day to come across somebody in real life who has nystagmus, and it's just never happened. So I set out to meet them online, and I was like, yeah, I should probably record this because people will find benefits to this, and that's what I've done.
So how are you finding your guests?
I found my first batch of guests because I made a post on a nystagmus forum on Reddit, and so that's how I met my first batch of guests. And now they kind of just reach out to me via email, which my email is frankiecaputo@gmail.com, and they'll reach out to me. How else do I? Facebook has some great nystagmus groups on there, and people from Facebook have reached out to me as well.
Nice.
So, yes.
So, yeah, because it seems like you have a good variety of guests that have come on. I mean, from all over the world that you're getting them in now. So
it's just luck.
Yeah.
It's luck. It's nothing that I've done intentionally. It's just pure luck, but I'll take it.
Well, I haven't been able to listen to all the episodes, but the ones that I have listened to have been fun to listen to. So you're doing a good job with it, I think.
Thank you.
And just hearing the conversations, and you're comparing with each other at times, but hearing the different stories. I like listening to stories anyway. But and the listeners that are coming into this, if they're coming in through search, they probably are in the same situation where they're looking to meet other people with nystagmus to find out more about it. So so the Dancing Ice podcast would be one that we'll definitely put in the show notes so that they can see where to go. And is the Gmail the best way to reach you, or is there another? Do you use social media as well?
Gmail is a good way to reach out to me. If you want to reach out to me on Instagram, I have an Instagram page for the podcast. It's just Dancing Eyes Podcast. Just type in Dancing Eyes Podcast, and that's me. I also have a personal Instagram account. It's just Frankie Caputo 22. Reach out to me any way you'd like. You got Instagram and Gmail. Yes.
Okay. So we'll put that in the notes for this episode as well. So I have on the website an episode resources page. And so it's listed by each episode. So if you're listening to this and you can't see the notes, go to the waterprairie.com website, and you're just looking for the episode resources, and go down to the one with Frankie, and you'll see all the links that we're mentioning here.
Great job on the website, by the way. It looks great.
Thank you. It's a work in progress. We're my biggest thing starting out was I couldn't figure out a logo. We had a hard enough time getting a name, much less going to a logo. So I'll see how long before I'm tired of the color scheme or whatever that I have, but it's getting there.
Okay.
But thank you. All right, so now it's everybody's favorite time, and it's time for the
All
speed
right.
round.
Okay.
So for those who haven't listened before, or if you haven't heard this part yet, the speed round is a series of 10 questions. The first 3 are open-ended questions, and the last 7 are either-or questions. They're easy questions, but they can be difficult if you overthink it. So the key here is just first thing that comes to mind, go ahead and say it. And if you really have to, you can pass or say both, but try to guess if you can. So do you have any questions?
No, I believe you're the one with the questions.
I have 10 of them right here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, what's your favorite color?
Purple.
Oh, you just surprised me. I thought you were going to say something else.
Magenta. It's something like indigo. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those.
What
one the crown chakra is. So.
What was the last book that you read?
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, good one. And favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
Okay. And the rest of these are either or. I'll give you either 2 words, 2 phrases, and you just choose which one is the one you would choose. Okay. So starting out with cake or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Ocean or mountains?
Mountains.
Winter or summer?
Winter.
Watch a movie or read a book?
Oh, God. I don't know. Watch a movie.
Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
Harry Potter.
And Twitter or Instagram?
Instagram.
All right. You fit some of the normal trends on this. And the reason I said that the color threw me is because when we started out, you said something about red. So I was waiting for you to say red.
What did I say about red? I don't like red.
I can't remember what it was, but
I don't know.
I have to go back and listen to it. Maybe it was another color, but it was not purple.
That's hilarious. I was just talking to my mom today about what my favorite color was, and I couldn't figure out what it was called. I just know, like, if you know anything about chakras, it's the crown one, the one all the way at the top.
So we have the information that we've given to everyone on how to contact you. So we'll make sure that we put that in the other. I appreciate you being on the podcast today and telling us about what you're doing and just sharing some more sensitive parts of your life with us for our parents to be able to hear.
I appreciate you having me. I love what you're doing. This is great. Keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, that was an interesting interview. I'll have to check out the Dancing Eyes podcast and see what Frankie's doing over there. Next week, we have an interview with Hardin Engelhardt, the Vice President of Engagement at Marbles Kids Museum in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were able to catch up with her during a special sensory-friendly play event held at the museum last month.
You've been listening to the Water Prairie Chronicles. Any resources mentioned during this episode will be posted in the description. If you're interested in joining us as a guest, contact us through the links in the description below. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for a new episode.